Alafia, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I am your host, Arisha Bemi, and today we have on a pillar in the community, staple in not just the Ashe community, but the whole Isheshe community. Without further ado, Baba Oloye Ifa Karade. I appreciate you taking the time to join us today, Baba. How you doing today?
Lafia. I am well. I am well. It's always an honor to be here, speaking to the generations, and trying to bring the essence of age and experience to the Isheshe community. So, Modupwe for having me on. And to all of the listeners, hold on, okay, because we go deep, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. So, let's see. We've had some very interesting conversations over the last couple of weeks, Baba. I think several of them have been extremely interesting, but I know one that I believe as soon as we started, it was on your chest, and you wanted to clear the air and kind of just let some things be known in terms of how the personification or how the narrative of the goddess of Oshun is coming across in terms of the excuse me, in terms of the Isheshe community. So with that, I feel like Oshun is a very popular deity. A lot of people know and worship her. A lot of people are tied to the deity of Oshun. She has a very powerful presence, not just in the in Nigeria and the Oshogbo, Oshun State, all that, but across the whole continent of Africa as well as across the diaspora. So in terms of some of the narratives and some of the things that we know of about Oshun, what are some of the things that kind of rub you the wrong way, or that you feel it needs to be addressed in terms of us having a clear view and a clear narrative of this powerful deity of Oshun, Baba?
Well, it's important to realize that perception is the key to insight, foresight, and also hindsight. And what we see of symbols, and what we see of personifications and anthropomorphisms of the essence is, again, primarily based on perception. Now the question becomes, are we locking in on perceptions other than ancestral? Are we giving in more to how we perceive based on a missionary / colonial translation / interpretation and resting there? Or are we striving to see beyond that perception that we've been conditioned to see via? Okay. I personally, because of my age and stage at the time of becoming a member of the Isheshe community, had difficulty embracing Oshun as sexual sensual. Okay. Everywhere I turned, to the right, to the left, okay, this was the presentation. This was the perception. This was how the majority of people whom I've dialogued with saw Oshun. Now, I'm the son of Oshun. So Obatala. I'm Omo Orisha. So the Orisha are speaking to me as I was initiated into the essence of Orisha and Ifa in Nigeria. So I'm having this transatlantic experience in terms of perception. I didn't know what I was looking for at the time, but I do know what I was seeing wasn't what I was looking for. And yeah, it did rub me the wrong way, to see this again, the like 99.9% sexualization of our African essence and divinity. I mean, it was like the same thing that was being done to our women in general since enslavement.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm like, wow, this isn't right. And everywhere I go, it's highlighted, it is focused on it, and you know, it, the men and the women are buzzing around this, you know. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not feeling it, y'all.
Right.
I'm not into it like that. So I took a little step to the left, quietly, in the stillness of it all, through time, age, and experience. Oshun began to speak. Okay. And I then began to realize that the essence of Oshun, as well as all the Orisha, are internal in their being. We can't say that they're of nature, that natirs, you know, and dismiss that we are of nature as well. And that's what I say, well, the Orisha are portals to Ifa, a great understanding. So where's Oshun in all of this? So I started looking at rivers, okay? And I started looking at bloodstreams. And I started looking at, that navel area, and in terms of a meditational internal plexus, and saying, okay, Oshun, I hear you. I hear you because I'm listening. I'm listening to you. I'm not listening to some, interpretation of you by others who are not fully into our ancestral realities. You know, it's a cocktail. And it is Century, it is Lukumi, it is Kendom. Like, I get it, and I understand the necessity of needing to bring that mixture into being for the survival
Right.
of we as a people, for the survival of the Orisha. Okay, I get it. Okay. But what I also get is that people have difficulties unwinding that, unbraiding it, okay, and seeing differently because of their meditation on it,
Mm.
because of their study on it, because of their listening to individuals like myself who say we're elders. Okay, we've gone through those stages, we've seen what's digestible and what is just regurgitation,
Mm-hmm.
you know of somebody else's perception, the whole eschew is Satan kind of thing.
Yeah.
you know so I've been on the front line, you know in terms of no. Okay, no, we can't accept that. We can't accept the Orisha aspect being the hoodooish, and the Catholic being this is your saving grace. No, we can't accept that.
Right.
you know and then turn around and say we're about our ancestors. Okay, even our ancestors enslaved were not you know totally brainwashed. Okay, but through the generations, because see, they weren't born into it. Our generations were more so born into it. And we've seen what happens when you don't believe what they want you to believe, and you don't perceive the way they want you to perceive. The torture, the pain, the inquisitions of it all. So I do understand that, and I get it. But what I'm sharing with our listeners is, there are so many more and deeper ways to embrace not only Oshun but all the Orisha. So
Yes.
going back to the rivers that flow, and the essence of the naval region, and then it dawned on me that it's about a stream of consciousness.
Mm.
And why is it that when Oshun stepped away, the essence of life shut down. And all the Orisha had to say, we're sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't mean to upset you, Ia.
Yeah.
Please come back. Because if you cut off that stream of consciousness, that permeates the body,
Right.
you can have all the other Orisha that you want. Okay. But those wheels aren't like electricity, going through via the stream of consciousness. So, yeah, there may be people who argue that, my perception, just like I argue the perceptions of, she's just boobs and butt. You know what I mean? No, I'm not going to accept that. But I do accept anybody not accepting what I've come to understand. But the seed has been planted, and maybe as time, okay, and the nutrients of the soil become enriched, people will start to understand that once again, this crazy old man isn't so crazy.
Sure.
Okay, he just been around for a minute. Okay, and he's been striving and struggling to free this as well as this.
Sure.
So page 2, and then I'll ease up a bit. No, Oshun as the essence of unconditional love. I spoke on this before. I spoke on this years ago. Okay, I don't embrace the whole unconditional love thing. Okay? I've seen too much harm done when people want to love unconditionally. And then I started to ponder, why is it that Oshun, the Orisha who kneels before Olodumare and says humanity must be given greater light. Humanity must not be put too far away from you. Okay. I'm the only Orisha that's pleading at the feet of you, Olodumare, for the sanity and sanctity of humankind. So then why would she turn around and say, well, anybody can treat you any kind of way.
Right.
And you got to love them unconditionally. That's not how the world works. Okay. And then I'll find, well, she didn't say it. That's what was interpreted by colonizers. That was interpreted by missionaries, be they Yoruba missionaries or European missionaries. They were all missionaries.
Right.
So they got the whole, Jesus loves the world and God loves everybody. Yeah, well, not the way I'm looking at it. Okay. I'm just being a realist. I'm not crashing into anybody's belief party.
Right.
Okay. But as a realist, okay, looking at the nature of things, not many are unconditional. And so, well, what is it beyond unconditional love? And what is love? Love just appears to be strong like.
Right.
Oh, I like you so much, I love you. Or I like this food so much, I love papaya and mango. And regardless of if it starts, giving me a rash or whatever, I still love the taste of it.
Man, listen. And I've heard people say that too about food they're allergic to. I'm like, man, ain't no way. I don't care what it is. As much as I love whatever food it is, man, if it started to give me an allergy or some type of breakout, it's a wrap. Yeah.
That's my point.
That's on that thing, man. I'm at the reminisce.
Yeah. But see, and we look at people with diabetes who still love sugar. Yeah. You understand? And be they in church or the Elay. It's like, no. No, the food is blessed. And you can bless the food all day. If it's going to kill you, it's going to kill you. Right. Okay. So, the whole thing is, as a realist, it's like the unconditional love that is, purported. And this Oshun is unconditional love and la 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 la. I'm saying no. She's telling me that that's not what she said. That's just how she has been misinterpreted. So okay, Oshun, what is it? She said it's understanding and compassion. Okay, that's greater than even forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because people can say in a minute, "Oh, I forgive you," or people can beg for mercy after they've slaughtered, billions of people. It's like, okay, well, at my last breath, I know. See, that people who do the wicked, they come up with ways to save their own mental state.
Oh yeah.
And to pacify, the generations afterwards. We're just going to rewrite what's holy.
Yeah.
And we're going to rewrite what God said. And now I'm even reading where some preachers are telling, their congregations to sell their property so that the preachers can take the money to buy plots of land in heaven. Are you kidding me right now?
Listen, I didn't know that. Look, you threw a curveball at me with that one. What I was going to say is what you're saying with the rewriting history is like in Florida with wild boy DeSantos trying to take all the books and all that out of the schools. That within itself is trying to rewrite history and trying to, I guess, wash away the sins.
Yeah. So it's all, their progress to blow the noses off of our, committing sacredness, not via some in the sky God, but the actual sacredness of we as beings,
right?
Not just human beings, but as beings on this planet. Okay, and the connectiveness of all of us beyond the molecular into the atomic. That we're all connected, and that's not a belief. That's an understanding that it is ancient as time. You understand? So what Oshun is presenting is the need for us to exercise compassion, and being merciful. That's like crimes against humanity. Why? If black folks did the same thing that Jewish folks did in terms of hunting down Nazis, who created atrocities against their people, it would be a brand new day up in here. It would be a brand new day up in here, because see, they can do that because the shade. Okay, they can do that because of the connectiveness, and they can do that because they weren't enslaved by the Europeans of the 15th, 16th. And I just read that today that a couple in West Virginia had black kids that they adopted living in shacks and using them as slave labor and human trafficking. This happened last week, 2024, in West Virginia. Okay, so no, I'm not feeling unconditional love for these people,
right?
In the containment. Okay, but where does the compassion come in? Okay, the compassion comes in terms of you're committing crimes against humanity. I have to have a greater compassion for humanity than I have to have for you. You understand? Now, I could put you in the same situation. I can be merciless against you. I can chop you up into 1,000 pieces, but I'm just going to throw you in jail. You see? And may God have mercy on your soul. You understand what I'm saying? Meanwhile, you've destroyed the lives of like 4 or 5 children. And then the rippling effects throughout the community and throughout the nation and throughout the world. You're sex trafficking, you're labor trafficking. You are continuing enslavement. No, I'm not going to turn around and say, well, I'm going to unconditionally love you for what you've done. That is not Oshun. Oshun is like, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you a lesson. I'm going to be compassionate in my heart, and I'm going to be merciful. Okay? But I'm going to deal with you. And so now That couple is in jail, $500,000 apiece. They can't come up with the bond money. They came up with 200,000 from who knows where the money came from.
Right.
But they can't come up with the 500. I said, look at these fives ringing bells right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Because the compassion, the unconditional, the compassionate, the understanding. And then what side do we stand on? Oshun also embraces the children of the world.
Ase.
Okay. She is the essence of the feminine. Okay. You think she's going to sit by and unconditionally love people who hurt babies?
No, sir.
Okay. So, here we go. And now, in closing, I know I may have a different background. I've been a social worker in, urban areas. You know what I mean? I've been in and out of projects. I've been snatching kids from harmful parents, and working in the school systems and, grasping the reality of our plight. And then developing strategies as a Babalao to bring that essence of understanding, that perception into the lives of our people. But it's ineffective, again, running around with other people's perceptions that basically degrade us and devalue us by degrading and devaluing our Orishas. And I'll close on that, my brother.
Yeah, that was a lot. It was a lot, but I agree. And it's a lot going on, a whole lot, and I feel like I was on a call not too long ago, and I feel like the planet herself is going through a cleansing. We're seeing a lot of things being exposed. We're seeing a lot of things coming out that normally would have been hidden or tried to, they've tried to hide. And people have been trying to, keep things hidden of that sort. But that was a very powerful explanation and interpretation of Oshun. So with that, I know she's been on my spirit lately quite a bit, and I've been, talking to her and just kind of trying to invoke that energy, and trying to embrace that as well within her. So in terms of the goddess and her with being tied to fertility and abundance and prosperity, and of course the flowing of the rivers and the flowing of the bloodstream, etc. Do you see us creating a path in which we're going to actually manifest this whole idea of reparations? What do you think about that, Baba?
I don't think it's going to happen. And please, somebody prove me wrong. You know what I mean? There's a whole lot of things that have happened in my lifetime. Black president. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Black people on spaceships and stuff. I mean? We got Neil deGrasse. Tyson. Got a leading black. Physicist. That's my boy. Though. I like his style. And so a whole lot of things, have happened. Did they pass the anti-lynching law? You know what I mean? If so, have people actually stopped lynching us? You understand? And that rope takes so many forms from.
Oh yeah.
From
systemic
to ballot.
Yeah. Right? Bullets to ballots, the schools, the pipelines, the prisons.
Yes.
We go on and on, like Erykah Badu said with that. So, but yeah.
And it's all lynching, I'm going to do this, but even down to the gangster rap and the drill rap.
Listen,
I know. I know I'm pushing your buttons.
Yeah, look, you getting me riled up now, man. Now you getting me all riled up.
Don't get riled up, brother. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Because we are at war. You know.
Yeah. And since you done push my buttons and cook my cornflakes up, I'm gonna go ahead and be riled up, man.
Go on and do it, man.
I feel like well, for those who are watching, I think we got a few people watching live, but first and foremost, I'm gonna say, rest up, little homie, to the young king, Julio Fulio, who was assassinated here in my city in Tampa on, I believe, Sunday morning, like 4:40 in the morning, something like that. I had never heard of the king, the kid before that night. I just woke up and saw it all over the internet, and I guess it was flushed around a lot more heavily, being that I'm in the area. So I guess the algorithms was pushing it around, and the people who were in this space or what have you. But it bothers me on a lot of different levels because, for one, doing the work that we do, working with the children, working with the youth, and and pouring into the community, um, the different levels of the warfare that we're talking about now. When we talk about the music, when we talk about entertainment, when we talk about hip hop, or I should say hip shop, and I got to go and just go. It's a lot of bullshit, to be perfectly honest, and it does piss me off because I look at how, even when I grew up listening to hip hop, yeah, it wasn't nothing sweet, it wasn't cute, it wasn't prissy or none of that, because I came up in the era, with NWA and Eazy-E and Pac and Big, and so we did have some brothers who was heavily in the street lifestyle, but there was codes and ethics within that, especially in the music aspect. Now, I'm not saying that all streets had codes and ethics per se, but most of them did. And there wasn't women being murdered. It wasn't children being murdered for the most part. There was always, those kind of foreign cases, but for the most part, it didn't go the way it's going now. But now, we're looking at a systemic plot and a systemic strategy that is in place to specifically create the hate and the division of the divide and conquer mentality and environment for our young kings. And so for me, being somebody who grew up in that era and being somebody who literally, I feel like my coming of age was the exact same time as the coming of age with the quote unquote gangster rap era. So I recall when in I think it was, I don't know if it was 92, 91, whatever year it was, when Boys in the Hood came out, right? And I was just having this conversation not too long ago off air. And I recall when Boys in the Hood came out, I remember going to see that movie. At the time, I want to say I was in Springfield, Mass. I was up north when I went to see the movie for the first time. And I remember we went with my uncle. We was like maybe 10, 15 deep in a van. And we was at West Springfield Theater. And I recall after we left the movie, as soon as we walk into the van, I just hear shots ring out. Boom, 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 boom. They out there busting. So it's like that right there was an immediate sign that it's about to go down and it's about to go left, because what we saw on the video screen, on the movie screen, was something that was so impactful to our psyche that we couldn't even wait until, and I say we, I'm talking about us as melanated people and the youth. We couldn't even wait until we got outside of the theater to even get in the car to go back to whatever neighborhood we came from before we start imitating or emulating what we were seeing on the big screen. So now you take just that one, Boys in the Hood, and then now you put in Juice, which I'm a big fan of Juice. I love the movie Juice. I love how Pac murdered that role as Bishop in Juice. But then you take Juice, and then you take Menace to Society, right? So let's just stick with those three movies alone. With those three movies, you're seeing the programming, the subliminal subconscious programming of the sexual seduction of Black men assassinating and murdering each other, and it's being glorified and it's being painted as something that's cool, as something that's tough, as something that's hard, right?
Right.
So now we're seeing this on the big screen, and then we're also being inundated with it through the music. So now we have it on TV, we have it in music, and now we factor in the fact that how many different young single black mothers are raising young black males by themselves because their fathers are either one, someone who was addicted to crack cocaine, two, someone who is addicted to alcohol or whatever other drugs, or three, someone who is dealing and selling these narcotics that was all planted into the communities. And so now they're either dead or in prison, or they're just dirtbags and not raising their children, right? So now you leave the black woman, the mother, the Oshuns, to raise these young kings, these young warriors, to try to enforce any type of discipline or any type of, you know what I'm saying? Like any type of shit of them in their path is almost unseen or unheard of, right? That's back in my era. So now we fast forward 30, 40 years, and now that same culture has only, I would say, intensified maybe 10, 15, 20 times worse now.
Yeah.
And then now you got these young brothers, I'm talking about at 12, 13, 14, who's seeing this same culture, who's in this same cyclical combination, the same cycle, and they got access to Dracos, they got access to fully automatic AKs, fully automatic ARs, fully, you know what I'm saying? Like we talking about real big boy toys. We're talking about the same stuff the US corporation government uses. You know what I'm saying? So now they're using the same things that's being used over there in what's the word the latest war going on? Israel, wherever they're warring at now, like they got them kind of toys.
Yeah.
Right here in our neighborhood.
Right.
And they're using them on each other.
Right.
So yeah, that does get me riled up, and it got my brownies all cooked and burnt, because I'm thinking like there's no where do we have to figure out where do we penetrate the minds of these young kings, right? And then how do we instill the value of these kings to let them know that you're not a op, you're not a goon, you're not none of these. You're a king, you're a royalty, you're the essence and presence of God.
Yeah.
That's what you are.
Yeah.
So when I'm looking at you, Baba, I'm looking at a seasoned, matured, decorated God, God King, God King priest. That's what I see when I see you. That's what I see when I see these young kings. But they don't see that. They see the op. They see somebody they want to put a red dot on, right? So for me, I feel like we got to figure out a way to put a red dot on this culture, right? Because if anything, they're tapping into and channeling some very powerful energies, that of Ogun and Shango, and like very powerful energies, but those energies are being directed in the wrong place, towards the wrong people, at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So that's something that there's a lot of work that has to be done in terms of, and I know we spoke about talking about healing. So now when we talk about healing, we talk about compassion. These are the things that I know that's on the top of my mind about how I would love to figure out how we can kind of invoke that Oshun compassion, and that Oshun energy of love, and that Oshun energy of, what I'm saying, of healing and embracing and things of that nature. Because we've been in a war for centuries now, but we can't allow ourselves to war amongst ourselves, because that's essentially how we kind of got into this war of the last 4 to 5 centuries to begin with. You know what I mean? So if we wasn't doing that amongst ourselves, then we wouldn't be in the situation as a culture that we're in now. So we can't allow the ones who should be on the forefront getting us out of that same battle and war to be warring amongst each other, to only take away more of our own warriors, troops, and soldiers that we need to be able to be successful and victorious in this said war.
Right. And truly liberated, brother.
My apologies. I know I got a little riled up.
No need to apologize, because see, this is where it all begins.
Right.
The dialogue. The putting the bandage, where it needs. If the right arm is bleeding, you don't put the bandage on the left arm. You know what I mean? And if you got a situation, and then you need to put your finger on the pulse of it, then that's what you need to do. And if you find out that situation is dying, then there's some sort of recitation that needs to be happening. You know what I mean? We got to start pounding on chest. You know what I mean? We got to start breathing life into it, because we're dying.
Yeah.
We're dying. But if nobody's going to put their finger on the pulse, if nobody's going to check and see, if nobody's going to treat this like it's an emergency,
right? That part.
Then we'll all just sit around and what's my next reading, and how many chickens I got to get, and what needs to be done, and and when's the next Ben Bay, and blah 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 blah. It's like, okay, y'all. Again, I understand, but at some point you're going to have to understand that if we don't create a tidal wave, then we're going to die. Not for the lack of anything except knowledge.
Right.
We're going to die from the lack of knowledge, not from the lack of hunger or the lack of thirst. We're going to die from the lack of knowledge. Knowledge of self cannot be embraced without knowledge of one's forbearing. Okay? That's just plain and simple. Because we all a part of this lynching. These young bucks may feel as though they doing what they doing, but they don't realize they just puppets on a string. Now, my time, the 60s, the CIA, everybody else was planting drugs, as a form of backlash. And the movies were starting to become, blacks exploitative.
Hence, pushes.
All that. And everybody laughing, car wash and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And it's like, we're just going to laugh ourselves right into early graves, and still think it's funny, still think that it's this, still think that it's that. It's everything that is counter evolutionary, and we keep falling for it. And it's not just happening here. Had dialogue with a brother over there in South Africa, talking about Ubuntu. We the people. It was like, well, Baba, how can we get out of that? I said, well, we got to start discussing and reading texts on liberation. Are we reading Patrice Lumumba? Are we reading Nelson Mandela? Are we reading Kwame Nkrumah? We just going to school like sheep herded. We just going to church like sheep herded. We just going to prison like sheep herded. We're just going to graveyards like sheep herded, and everybody praising the Lord and looking for a shepherd. Really?
Not knowing all along that shepherd is looking right back at you. That's the only shepherd I know. And the one I see every day in the morning.
Right. You need to be more concerned about the shepherd than the wolf, because see, people eat lamb. Okay. So the whole thing is that we, have to get these dialogues going in our elays and making it a part of the, I did something a couple of years ago, and it was streamed live, and people were kind of, jumping in and stating what they say. They're like, wow, he's taking the Yoruba to like a revolutionary statement. I'm not, man, I ain't trying to be revolutionary. I'm just trying to be for real.
Right. But that's revolutionary within itself.
Exactly. Because I'm sorry, it's pushing back against the white backlash. And when I deal with these young minds coming into colleges, it's heartbreaking. I think I mentioned talking about Juneteenth, class of 25 students. None of them really knew what Juneteenth was about. None of them even knew what slavery was about. I teach language arts. I said, well, we're going to do a report, and you got to have 3 pictures, because I know that visual is going to hit you just as hard as the words. And it's out there. And I'm like, well, what are your history teachers doing? What's the school system doing? Where was the school system when these kids were out of school being trafficked? Up until last week. I'm talking about kids like 12, 14 years old. Not little babies, you know what I mean? Where's the school? And the people adopted these kids. So where's the social service agency who's supposed to be following up on that?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
in my mind, it's all set up for the damnation of us. And like you're saying, we're putting the noose around our own neck, our own people's neck, and not even realizing how brainwashed we are to do it. Even those people, oh, you into that African stuff. What do you mean I'm into that African stuff? Look at you, look at me. We are African stuff. What do you mean we into that African stuff? You've been brainwashed out of your mind.
Oh man.
You just can't accept the fact that our people weren't lovingly made into Christians. We were forced, we were beaten, we were stripped, we were mutilated, we were raped into submission. And let's, forget all of that. God loves everybody. If God loved everybody, then what? Face the reality. And we have to bring understanding into it. Oshun is not going to be fluttering around with boobs and breasts. She's like, y'all need to get something, slap somebody upside their head because y'all being stupid. You're being foolish and you're letting this shit happen generation after generation. So for the Onisheshe people, yeah, revolution time. Okay. And if you need somebody to say it, then I'm saying it. If you need somebody that you need to kind of, make sense of it, then let's make sense of it. Because see, it's not playtime. The Orisha are not toys, set for your entertainment. They're here for our survival as a people, as a civilization, not as some, we just dance and drum kind of individuals.
Right.
And make sacrifices. Yeah, okay, for all the sacrifices, we're still at the top when it comes to incarceration. We're still at the top when it comes to women who died during childbirth. We're still at the top when it comes to the percentages of people who are uneducated, illiterate. So what are all these airboats doing? They're just making life okay for you.
Right.
For you. What about all the rest of us? So I said to the brother as well, okay, look at colonialism and look at neocolonialism. You want to know what happened to Ubuntu? Then let's break it down. If I can see it, why can't you see it? You live over there.
Right.
Okay. So you have colonialism, you have neocolonialism. Okay. Nobody's studying that. Nobody's understanding that when these nations became free, they were signing off with the European nations who colonized them will still control their religion, will still control their education, will still control their finance and economics. Look at the Congo, okay? And will still control every aspect of culture. The Franco-speaking, the Anglo-speaking, they all had these nations sign off. The nations leaders who didn't sign off, like Nkrumah, okay, like Lumumba,
Muammar Gaddafi,
and Gaddafi, they all got assassinated.
Yeah.
Every nation who didn't sign off got assassinated. Okay, every nation's leader. So all the other nations, they got paid, they got padded. Their pockets was overflowing. They sold their souls to the colonizers. So technically speaking, all those African countries are still colonized. They just pretending that they're not. But when somebody controls your education, your religion, and your finances, I mean, you're not free.
Yeah. That reminds me of the book by the brother Neely Fuller, and I cannot think of the name of it. Very powerful book, but he goes into every step of the whole paradigm. I cannot. Dang.
Yeah, it'll come to you. It'll come to you. All right.
Fuller, powerful piece of work, though. Very powerful piece of work.
Right. And I share with him, because what happened to our people? It's plain and simple. Okay. And then when you let's not again forget the religious aspect. Okay. They keep pumping this, everything is white is right and white is heaven, and the more you give yourself to this image of God and Jesus, the better off your people going to be. But look at what's happening as a result. It's not therapeutically sound to believe in something greater than you that is not of you.
Outside of you.
I mean, come on, people. You understand what I'm saying? How can you? And I said you got to do away with that white savior syndrome. You just gotta ice it. You got to go through the withdrawal, because it's an addiction. It's a drug. It's been pumped into your spirit, and it's toxic to you embracing people of your own composure and constitution.
Or even to another level, that just embracing yourself, embracing self
Fully. So and back to economic. Well, they were put on your religion back in the day on the job app, your religion. Now if you put anything except Christian, especially in the colonized and quote unquote post enslavement,
right,
here in this hemisphere, odds are you wouldn't get the job.
Nothing.
And don't even talk about being a banker or a politician. You see, so it was all set up to squeeze you into this little box, so that you can have some sense of success. But at what cost? And so 5 of us make it to some position, and 5,000 of us wind up in prison. 5 of us become, look at them, they made it, but for every 5, there's 5,000 who don't live to see 30 years old. So, we tend to prop up the ones who, made it like this and made it like that.
Right.
But we don't seem to hear the suffering of our own people. If we don't hear it, then we become part of its design, like these young brothers and young sisters, who are going hard against one another. And I'm like, we have got to create a flow. If we're going to talk about Oshun, the rivers are going to have to overflow.
I should.
We just can't be in this Ifa and neglect the fact that our people on a worldwide basis are suffering at the hands of Eurocentric perceptions. At the hands of Eurocentric perceptions. And here we are, supposedly educated and free, but we are ignorant and we are not liberated. And most of us don't even want to try to be it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, because no one's talking to us about it.
Yeah. A lot of people are scared to have these kind of conversations, though, Baba. Like, especially on publicly. I can say that right now. Like, a lot of people are not comfortable having any conversation about anything that's real, especially in any
open,
like, you know what I'm saying? Like, for real. I know that for a fact, because I know I can have conversations with people off air in a regular private environment, and but man, don't you mess around and say none of that stuff like in a public environment, or even like around a group of people who, you know what I'm saying, that's outside whoever is in the initial circle. Like, and I feel like we have to get past that. We have to get past that, because at the end of the day, the way I see it is, what's the worst thing can happen to you? Death. Okay, well, guess what? That's happened before. And, not my first time being here. I know that. So, and I'm not saying I'm trying to go and I'm trying to have it happen, but I'm not afraid of it, because I know that that's not the end for me.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, where did I come from before I came into this body?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
I came from spirit, you know,
Right.
came from a much higher power and a much higher source. So to
Sure.
me, it's kind of simple, elementary that I'm gonna go right back to that same source that I came from to begin with. So therefore,
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of whatever that, that whatever that is that, a lot of us are afraid of in terms of having the dialogue and having the conversation about
Right.
how we kind of really make real progress and quantum leaps about, about healing
Yeah.
and moving
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And people say, and people say, well, we need a spokesperson. I'm right here. You know what I mean? I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to stand up on the stage or behind the podium or on these forums and please, argue with me, relatively. You know what I mean? Debate me relatively. And if you really feel as though I'm wrong, then just say so, but back it up. You know what I mean? Because
Gotcha.
it's like to say, I'm not trying to be the smartest person in the room. You know, I'm trying to enact a necessity. Okay. Now, if you can have somebody like Farrakhan, you understand when you start looking at people like Wafdi Muhammad and
Yeah.
people who took up the battle
Mm-hmm.
and said, we're going to create a tidal wave. I don't see any of the FOIs out there doing drill rap and killing each other. You understand what I'm saying? I don't see all of that. So why can't we create a tidal wave of movement with the Onisheshe?
Yeah.
Why can't I see that in my lifetime?
We just gotta we need a lot more organization, sure.
Well, yeah, but how many times can we say that before we actually start doing it?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? I ain't getting any younger, and the whole thing is, if it's organization we need, then let me be the first one to sit down with for people who remember what a pen is, with a pen and a piece of paper, and say, okay, let's start getting this ish together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because see, all of this, playing around, it's costing us lives.
Yeah.
It's costing us lives. And again, we're just, allowing ourselves to be lynched, and we're doing it, But, the therapeutic value, again, goes into realizing that the therapy is needed.
Mm.
Let's look at that. And
Sure.
we can start looking at all the Orisha, but the Orisha are to empower us,
Sure.
And I used to tell people when I had my temple for 20 odd years, we got bring this is not in the basement. There's nobody, this is not a cult. You can't go around thinking, you know what I mean? Come on. Step up. Step out. Be about your faith. If not, what is your purpose? I mean,
Right.
truly, what is
Yeah.
your purpose? Okay, like I said, Orisha are not toys. They're portals into deeper understandings, and to being compassionate about the plight of our people, compassionate to the point where you're going to do something. A lot of other people saying that, I'm talking about, well, we're being erased from history. I'm like, bro, can't you write?
Right. Right.
Can't you read and write from history? And you can write.
Well, that's not gonna happen anyway. As long as we got them pyramids sitting over there in the center of Kemet, and not to mention all the different monuments and megaliths and all the different items that are all over the globe for that matter. For those who know and those who know where they are and what they are, that'll never happen. It's not possible.
I hear you, brother, but I dare say it is possible. It ain't gonna take but so many bombs,
Yeah.
And then because they would bomb in Sankore, the French bombed the University of Timbuktu. They tried to bomb it off the face of the earth because they didn't want any remnant, because the French were, colonizers of that region. They were dropping bombs on the university. This is fact. This is not conspiracy and all the black thing and all that kind of stuff. This is fact. This is what these people have been doing.
Yeah.
Napoleon blew off the nose of the Sphinx. If he wasn't in such dire need to kind of get up on out of there, he probably would have kept shooting cannonballs at it until it crumbled.
I feel like if they went that far, that's when they're gonna have a real Star Wars on their hands, though. Like for real. Because I mean, I'm sure you've probably heard of it, but there's been numerous occasions with them trying to launch nukes, and the minute that they try to prepare to launch them, everything is shut down. Them crafts appear, and they sit right there at that facility, and they shut everything down. I mean,
I hear you, brother.
It's like
we're from the planet Sirius, okay?
Yeah, so it's levels to the
yeah.
levels to going to the sacred, you know what I'm saying, monuments and the sacred portals. And gateways and things of that nature. So I don't think they that stupid.
You think Stargate? Keep
yeah, that's a whole nother level. And I know that they know. And in fact, I'll go right now. Anybody listening, Google 1952. Google flying saucers sitting over the White House in Washington, D.C. and watch how you see them crafts sitting right there in uniform formation right over that White House. So if y'all think I'm talking just to be talking, no. We talking facts.
We talking
big facts.
And not to get too deep, but that's the year I was born. I'm just saying. 1952. That's when the mothership said we're gonna drop you off on the Yeah, man.
Listen, so I think we're gonna go ahead and get ready for the closing because boy, we're about to start a whole another conversation here, and I'm all for it too. I'm all the way with that conversation for sure. Because listen, that's something that a lot, there are people who's talking about things of that nature, but that's something I've never spoke about on these types of platforms. But I have no problem with it, and I would love to actually, because when we're talking about the powers that be and the powers that we, there's a totally different ball game, and that's something that I speak about emphatically to people, because I just know there's just certain things that's not going to happen on this planet, and it is a lot of things that are happening, but some of those
that's
things
not one of them, right?
Because they know what it is, like for real. like I'm gonna quote my boy Kendrick on that. They not like us. They
not like us. and they finding us all over the planet now. The pushback or the backlash is, because I've taken students to museums, and I've been in the museums in London and Paris, and I've seen Black folks to all kinds of levels and degrees of mixture, and I try to stimulate some dialogue about it, and for the most part, not much happening, because the educational system, and those first few months of birth, much less years of birth, once there's that weed planted, it suffocates the garden that is attempting to grow. You see? So again, we can have all of these, but if there's no one to bring us to, again, the perceiving, the perception, and the importance of the empowering of that knowledge, then we can have them, and folks will be standing around looking at them and marveling at the grandeur,
right?
And it changes very little,
right?
Because the next day or week they back in school, being contained,
right?
And as you stated prior, intertrained. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To not even appreciate it, to have little to no knowledge of it, and then they show it on back to the media as places of evil or places that don't really matter, and all the subliminal kind of messages that are sent in terms of You see, it's not really all that. You understand what I'm saying? It's there, but it's not really all of that. You know, what you really need to be paying attention to is the Roman Colosseums and the Eiffel Tower and
Right.
Paris and all those kind of things.
Right.
But what y'all got going on, it's cool, but no,
Yeah.
no. And that's where we got to come in as the Ifa priests, and that's where Afrocentric uh, psychology comes in,
Mm-hmm.
because we have to change the perception and kind of go full circle. This is what Oshun, the stream of consciousness,
Mm.
okay, the essence of humanity is saying to us.
Mm. I see.
Ogun may have the technology, but it was Oshun who brought him out from the forest, because you can't have the technology just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
It has to become a part of the life stream. You see?
I see.
And close on that.
Yeah, nah, hey, look, that's a mic drop. That's a perfect way to segue it, to like you
Mm-hmm.
said, bring it full circle. It's so dope that you said that too, because I had a presentation yesterday at the HCC that I was talking about this something very similar in terms of the technology, and how it's there, but if you don't know how to use it, it's not
Mm-hmm.
really effective. You got to know how to use the technology, not just have access to it, but
Right.
there's different levels of knowing how to program the technology or how to use the technology to maximize the potential of the technology. And I feel like with that, I look at us as the technology.
Mm-hmm.
We are the AI in the form of the ancestral intelligence or the
Okay.
ancient intelligence. Like, you know
Okay.
what I mean? So if
Nice.
we're going to
Mm-hmm.
talk about this AI that's like all over the place now, okay, well, let me time travel with everyone. Let's time travel back to ancient intelligence with the pyramids of Kemet, where we seen all this technology laid out on the walls of the pyramids. And then
Mm-hmm.
let's go to ancestral
Mm-hmm.
intelligence, which that's what we're all a product of anyways right now. We're all the product of millions upon millions of ancestors who came before us. And we also have access to all of that intelligence from those millions upon millions of ancestors who came before us, because all of those cells are within every cell in our body, and we
Yeah.
can access that ancestral intelligence and technology and then utilize it,
Mm-hmm.
activate it, and then make shift happen. So
Okay. I'm gonna write that down. Ancestral intelligence.
listen, I got a quote. I got to give Professor Cabernet his props on that one. I borrowed that one from his toolbox.
All right. All right. Thank
I ain't gonna borrow nobody's tools without giving them their props. Whenever I borrow yours, I make sure I let people know I borrowed that.
All right.
Yeah, look, because I don't want to be I don't want to be
Uh-huh.
hemmed up for for
Okay.
cuffing nobody else's phrases. But yeah, that's
Uh,
where I originally heard that from was Professor
yeah,
Cobb.
that works. Artificial intelligence versus ancestral intelligence.
Yes,
Wait,
sir.
where are you?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Where are you? You know? All right. Well, please, give him my, because
Yes, sir.
that's nice.
I say,
All right.
yeah.
So, do we have some people, or we
I,
good?
I've seen them coming and going. And I honestly, I'm still working on this
Mm-hmm.
platform, so I still got to do some more tutorials and training and all that to kind of really put it all together. So, but I'll get it worked out, and I'm gonna continue to do these as well. So, I definitely look forward to our call next week, and then I'm gonna continue to learn how to
Mm-hmm.
how to maximize. Like speaking of technology, look, I'm gonna highlight Ogun too. But I gotta like just learn how to use all the different little features that comes with it, because it does have quite a few. So I'll get that
So,
done in due time.
this is going to be on YouTube. Is
Yeah,
on YouTube? Okay.
yes, sir. Yep. I believe how it works is once we end the stream,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be able to edit whatever I want to, and then I think I can kind of upload it from I'll download it, edit it, and then whatever I need to edit, and then I'll kind of put the intros and outros into it, and then kind of re-upload it. I believe is how it should go.
That's powerful. That
Yeah,
works.
it's a pretty cool platform, man. So I definitely got to look how, learn how to really play with all the bells and whistles of it. But it definitely has a lot of good features that I can see, come in handy in the future. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate it, Bubba. I appreciate you taking the time, and as always, dropping the science and the words of wisdom. It's definitely greatly appreciated.
All right. Well, I appreciate being given the opportunity. It's good. You just can't roll all the old folks in the wheelchair and dump them off at the daggone old folks home. Some of us, still kicking.
Man, as long as I'm around, I'm gonna be there with a camera and microphone right there, waiting to have these kind of conversations, man. 'Cause that's what I love to do. So I'm all for it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All
So
right.
I appreciate you. Bye bye. And thank you for everybody for tuning in and checking out the live stream for those who did pop on, and also for all of you who will see this video, as it's uploaded on the channel. I appreciate the love and support. Don't forget to please like, share, subscribe. And also, I appreciate all the comments and the feedback. Y'all, please keep it coming so that way, we know what kind of content and what type of topics that we can put out there to really make the channel add value and then to really make an impact. So that's what it's all for. So this is your host, Arisha Bemi, and signing off. And once again, Mudupwe to Baba Ifa Karade for joining us, sharing his words of wisdom. So this has been another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. Don't forget, please like, share, and subscribe. I'll see y'all next week. We out. Peace.
Okay. Peace. Odabo.
Odabo.